Okay. Now duopoly. Now listen, you need to understand. Don't just write down what you don't understand. Now the word duo means two, and then poly means seller. So when I say duopoly, what's that? What's that? Two sellers. Now, duopoly is a market where you have two sellers and many buyers. Now, what product is looking like that in Nigeria today? A good example I can quickly reflect on is WAEC and NECO. If somebody wants to write O-level now, most likely the option they have is to either do WAEC or do NECO. So we only have two O-level exam body. We might have some other ones, but let's just look at that. So WAEC and NECO, and then you have plenty students who want to write WAEC or NECO. So that's a duopoly market. A market where you have only two sellers, but you have many buyers who want to buy the product. So you might think of another example as you are looking at me. But of course, those are the two examples that come to me. So now, anytime you have two people competing, two sellers competing, now they have to be very careful of each other. Why? Because they have the same market. So look at this. You are free to talk. You are free to talk. Don't just shout, even though I'm recording. Yes, I don't want to limit you to asking questions. Now, so here we are now saying that if you want to look at what is always happening between two sellers in a market where you have plenty people buying products from them. Now there are three models we can look at. So we have the Cournot model, the Bertrand model, and the Stapleback model. So we are going to take them one after the other. The examiner can ask you to use any of the model to solve. So like you have this question now. So you can say using Cournot model, using Stapleback model, then using Bertrand model. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use just this one model to do the three methods. Then I'll give you a classwork. You will do that with just one of the methods, and then the remaining two you do it at home. Okay. So now, starting with Cournot model. Cournot model was developed by Augustin Cournot. So he named the model after his name in 1838, a French economist. And what's the model about? Look at it. Cournot model is a model of imperfect competition in which two firms with identical cost function compete. It's just like saying WAEC is selling his own form 10,500. NECO is also selling his own form 10,500. And you have millions of students that want to write O-level. So identical cost function and compete with homogeneous products. You know, if you write WAEC, it is O-level. If you write NECO, it's O-level. Is that not? So it's the same product. That's what we mean by homogeneous product in a static setting. In a static setting means that the total number of students that are going to get O-level, they are not going to change. If it is 1 million students, it's 1 million students every year. And then they have the choice of either buying WAEC form or NECO form. So WAEC and NECO are the supplier. How will they play the market in such a way that if WAEC want to get more profit, what will he have to do? Or if NECO want to get more profit, what will he have to do? That's what we are looking at. So don't forget that I asked you to watch the video on market structure, the first part I did. How many of you have watched that? Market structure. You know, market structure, we have perfect markets and we have what? Imperfect market. I've dealt with perfect market. Under imperfect market, you have monopoly, you have duopoly, you have oligopoly, and you have monopolistic competition. So one of the imperfect market is what? Duopoly, and that's what we are looking at. So this is the definition of Cournot Model. This is the guy that developed it. The assumptions of the model. The duopolies have identical products and identical costs. That is, this Cournot model, you can only solve it if you are looking at two sellers that both of them are selling the same thing at the same price. That's what this one is saying. Number two, the competitor will not change its output. That is, what WAEC is giving out as its own product is going to be the same thing. He will not say because of NECO, he should change his product. He will do what he's doing. NECO too will do what he's doing. So anytime you have that type of market, it's an assumption under Cournot model. So how will question come? How are you expected to come? Anytime you see a question that you are given one price function and two cost function, is duopoly. That is, they give you an equation that is just one price. Why? Because both of them are selling at the same price, but the cost of production for both of them is different. The moment you have a question where you have one price like this P and then two C's, it is duopoly. So the question will always come out this way, and you have things like that in the past question. Okay, so let's try to look at the way to solve this question. We want to get the reaction function of duopolist and of course the profit of the duopolist. When I say price function, what does that mean? The price at which the two sellers are selling the product. Then the cost function means that the cost at which the two sellers are producing the product. So the first seller is producing at 5x minus 1, the second seller is producing at 0.5x2 squared, and the price at which they sell is 100 minus 0.5x. So how do you solve that? Okay? Where to? Okay, you've not written it. Okay, right. Bless you. But don't do that again. Okay, now let's solve this together. First thing I need to explain to you is that when you see X, X means quantity. X represents quantity that the seller is producing. So when you see X, X means X1 plus X2. That is quantity of the first duopolist and then quantity of the second duopolist. Are we together? It's not every time they will use Q1, Q2. At times, the question can use X1, X2. So please don't forget. So what does X represent? Quantity. That's number one. Number two, our total revenue is always price times quantity, right? If you don't know, that's it. Total revenue is always price times quantity. But in this one, our quantity is represented by X. So that means if I want to find total revenue here, total revenue will be price times X. Do you understand? Because here, X is representing quantity. Okay? Having said that, so I want to find the reaction function of the duopolist. Don't forget, when I say duopolist, it means seller 1 and seller 2. So the first thing I'll try to do is, let's get their profit function first. So I can say profit function for duopolist 1. Our profit is always represented by this side, part. Yes. Our profit is always total revenue minus total cost. Profit is always total revenue minus what? Total cost. Let me break that down. If you buy 2 gallons and they sell each for 10 naira. So your total cost is 20 naira. Now if you sell the 2 gala for 15 naira each, your total revenue is 30 naira. Revenue means the total money you got when you sell the thing. Then from here now you can get your profit. Your profit will now be, you sold everything for 30 naira, you bought everything for 20 naira. So that means the amount you sold it minus what? The cost, which is now what? 10 naira. Abi? So total revenue is different from profit. Total revenue is the total amount you sold it. Profit is when you now remove the cost from revenue, you now get profit. Are we together? So at every given point, your profit is always total revenue minus total cost. That's 30 now minus 20 from this my illustration. And of course, that will give you 10. Now, having said that, our total revenue is price times quantity. Don't forget I said quantity here is represented by X, Abi. You know that total revenue is price times, you know, at every given point, your total revenue is always price times quantity, which is the same thing as PQ. But in this one, our Q is X. Now why do I have to put X1? Because we are looking for profit function of duopolis 1. Are we together? So total revenue minus total cost of duopolis 1. So here now, my price, I know it, this is it. But I have to express it in this way. So my price is 100 minus 0.5 x1 minus 0.5 x2. That is minus 0.5 times x1 will give you minus 0.5 x1. Minus 0.5 times x2 will give you minus 0.5 x2. Do you see that? This 0.5 times x1, then this 0.5 times x2. That's how I brought this.
Legally, what I'm saying here is, so P equals 100 minus 0.5x.
Yeah, that is 100 minus 0.5x is the same thing as this.
Okay, now
that was why I started with x is the same thing as x1 plus x2. So where we see x here, it's the same thing as x1.
Well, I actually thought that
x2.
since we are calculating for the duopolis 1, we wouldn't be needing the x2.
No, we will not be needing the x2 in the long run.
Okay.
But of course, we have to use this price and to multiply x1. Okay, so minus, what's the total cost for duopolis 1? 5x1, Abi?
Yeah.
Minus 5x1. Who is not clear with this one? This one. Me.
Don't answer them. Yeah, just snap it. Legally.
Oh yeah, please concentrate. If I explain this second time and you don't still understand, I will ask everybody to stand up. Yes. If I explain this second time you don't understand, everybody will stand up. Okay. If I explain to you why standing, I know you will understand. You are right, sir. Now, profit is total revenue minus total cost. I've explained that with the little illustration I gave you. So don't forget, your total revenue is always price times quantity. Price times quantity. And quantity means x1 in this place now, minus total cost. That is total cost 1. So our profit is now price. I know my price. This is my price. Now somebody will say, why am I not using this one? This one is the same thing as this. So this second one is a better version of this. So use this one. The one that shows the the quantity for the two products. Even though I want to do for as in Propolis 1, so you have to show it. Okay, so writing the price, my price means 100 minus 0.5 x1 plus x2. Abi, this one is representing my P, then this x1, then minus total cost. I'm supposed to put that x1 minus total cost. What's the total cost for the first broccoli? 5x minus 1. Do you see that? Are you lost? This, everything in this big bracket is this P. Then this x1, I still put it there. Minus, I still put it there. Total cost 1 is given in the question. 5x1. I put it.
Okay, you're using Cournot Model now.
Cournot. Everything we are doing is Cournot. Can I continue? So here now I can say profit 1 is 100 minus this 0.5 can multiply x1. So I'll have minus 0.5 x1. Then 0.5 multiplying this x2 will also be minus 0.5 x2. Because of this minus, it will affect this plus and change it to minus. So I still have the x1 minus 1. 5x1. Can I continue?
Yes.
So our profit 1 now becomes 100 times x1. 100 x1. Then minus 5 minus 0.5 x1 times x1. Minus 0.5 x1 squared. Abi?
Yes.
Then minus 0.5 x2 times this one. 5 x1 x2. Abi?
Yeah.
Then minus this one. 5x1. Is anybody lost? No. So here now let's try to so you can leave this profit there. And then let's try to get for Propolis 2. Or better still, now that I've gotten the profit function, let's differentiate with respect to x1. So I'll say the x1, sorry, the pi 1, the x1. That is, I want to differentiate this profit with respect to x1 in this equation. You know, if I differentiate 100 x1, what will it give me? 100. Abi?
Yeah.
Now, if I differentiate this now, minus 2 times 0.5, that will be 1. Abi?
Yeah.
So I can say 1 x1. Do you agree?
Yes.
If I differentiate 2 with times this one, then I will minus 1. So this is what I will have. And there is no need for me to even put 1. I just use it for explanation. Okay. Differentiate 100x1. 100. Are you clear with this one? Stand up. When you stand up and you
If it's people may say that I'm not playing.
I will teach you again. I know if you stand up, you want to sit down. If you differentiate 100x, the answer is 100. Differentiate 50x, the answer is 50. Differentiate 40x, the answer is 40. Anytime you differentiate a number with x to give you that number. So differentiate 100x1, 100. You are clear with that one? Now if I say differentiate 3x raised to the power 3, Shola for me. I'm expecting only Shola for me to talk. What's the answer?
3x raised to the power 3.
Differentiate.
It should be 2.
No. So let me tell you.
3x.
If you got 3 times 3,
3, 9x.
then you
Raised to the power 2.
minus 1
Raised to the power 2.
9x. So if I have 6x raised to the power 4, Shola for me. 6x raised to the power 4.
We have 24x raised to the power 3.
So now you are talking. So let's go with this. So I want to differentiate with respect to x1. So how will I differentiate this? So you tell me.
In respect to
We are differentiating this. What will you do? 0.5 times what?
2.
Times 2. 0.5 times 2 will give you 1.
1.
Then you know you will minus 1 for
Minus
this.
1.
So you will have x1 raised to the power 1. Because 2 minus 1
Are we
is 1.
supposed to put the 1 there?
So we are not supposed to put the 1 here, we are not supposed to put the 1 here. So meaning that what I will just add here is x1. Can I continue now? Now I told you that if I ask you to differentiate 90x, what will be the answer? 90, Abi?
Yes.
Now I want to differentiate minus 0.5 x1 x2 with respect to x1.
Minus 0.5 x2.
So answer will be minus 0.5 x2. Do you know why? Because anything you have around x1 will be your answer. If you have 90xy and you want to differentiate with respect to x, you just pick the 90 and then pick the y. Why? Because you are differentiating with respect to x. So here I'm differentiating with respect to x1. I'll just pick the 0.5 and the x2. Shola for me, differentiate minus 5x1. What will it be?
X will be 5 minus
5. Thank you. Where is that? So are you clear with this now? So you are going to leave it there and then do the same thing for Duopolis 2. Why are you leaving it here? Because whatever I get for Duopolis 2, I will now use it with this one to solve simultaneous equation, so that I can get x1 and x2. Am I good to go?
Yeah.
Do you have any question? Well, let's do for profit function for Duopolis 2. So here now, I'm not going to talk. You are the one that will tell me what I will, if I differentiate, what I will get. Profit function for Duopolis 2. Shola, you don't worry, you will soon graduate.
Graduate
Now, there's coronavirus.
Next
So
year,
profit
July.
You will go next year, June.
is total revenue 2 minus total cost 2. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Prince, every power that is making you to sleep while I'm teaching, loose. Yeah, stand up. Is the spirit of the devil. Now here, our profit 2 now becomes, our total revenue 2 will be px2 minus tc2. Do you agree?
Yes.
It is px1 here because it's Duopolis 1. Now it's Duopolis 2, it will be px2. If you stand like that, you will just be struggling with the sleep. So you have to be moving at a position. Okay, what's the price function?
P equal
100
minus 0.5 into bracket x1
x1
plus x2
plus x2 close the bracket x2. Are you?
yes
Minus what's our tc2?
0.5 x
0.5 x2 square. Are we there?
yes
We are good, Toby. So here now, let's expand. So our profit is going to be 100 minus 0.5 x1 minus 0.5 x2. Abi? Into bracket x2 minus 0.5 x2 squared. So what will be our profit now? Expand the big bracket. 100 x2. Abi? 100 minus x2 is 100 x2. Minus 1.5 x1 times x2. What will that be? x2. Then minus 1.5 x2 times x2. x2 squared. Thank you. Then minus 0.5 x2 squared. So let's differentiate now. Differentiate this with respect to x2. Why? Because it's Duopolis 2. So now, differentiate 100 x2. What's that? 100. Differentiate this one with respect to x2. x1. Abi? Then differentiate this one 2 times this. You know, to just give you x2. Abi? Then differentiate this. What will it be? x2 also. We agree?
yes
So if you want to tidy that up, you want to tidy this one up. So this one can now become 100 minus 0.5xy minus 2x2. You agree? You know this is x2. This is another x2. x2 in how many places? 2 places. That's why I have 2x2. How far? Shall I have me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our profit function 1. This is our profit function 2. So let's now from here equate to 0 and make x1 the subject of formula. From here equate to 0 and make x2 the subject of formula. So here now, if I say 100 minus x1 minus 0.5x2 minus 5 equals 0. So let's do it that x1 will stand below. Is this 100 minus 5? You know I can also tidy this up. 100 minus 5, what's that? So 95 minus x1 minus 0.5x2. So if I equate this to 0, I'm going to have 95 minus x1 minus 0.5x2 equals 0. So let me make x1 the subject. So if I take x1 here, I'm going to have x1 equals 95 minus 0.5x2. Who is lost here? Look at what I did. This equation equated to 0. This minus x1, by the time I bring it here to change to plus, the 95 and minus 0.5x2, this is it. Is anybody lost there? Don't be afraid to ask me questions. I will explain it to you. You just tell me if you are lost. Shola Fumi, are you lost?
Not.
Maybe you are fine. Prince.
Sorry, sir. That one will go to minus 95, not to 95.
Okay, see what I do. If you leave, you know that 95 minus x1 minus 0.5x2 equals 0. Are you?
Yeah.
If I leave minus x1 here, then I now take 95 here. That's when you change to minus. But what I did was minus x1, I brought it here. So 95 and minus 0.5x2 is still here, equals x1. So what I just did was to change it to now say x1 equals 95 minus 0.5x2, which is what I have here. Let's do the same thing to this. From here, let's make x2 subject to formula. So if I have 100 minus 0.5xy minus 2x2 equals 0. Minus 2x2, take it to this side. So I'll have 100 minus 0.5xy equals 2x2. Abi? To make x2 stand alone, divide both sides by 2. This will cancel this. So our x2 will now be equal to 50 minus 0.5 divided by 2. Someone should give me figure. 0.5 divided by 2. 0.25. 25x1. So equation what? Equation 2. Who is not clear with this? Okay.
That's
This place has
yes. Because
from there.
I'm going to go to minus 1 minus x1.
And they take it to the other side.
That's what I explained here. It shows that when I was explaining that, you didn't follow me. From here, I have 95 minus x1 minus 0.5x2. So if I equate it to 0, this minus x1, if I bring it here, you now will have 95 minus 0.5x2 at this side. I've brought this minus x1 here, that's straight to x1. So I can rewrite this and bring this one here. And bring this one here. Which is this? Where? From here? That's what I just explained now. Are you clear up to this place?
Where did you get the 95?
100 minus 5.
I'm going to have 5 here now.
5 where?
That is.
If you differentiate 100x1, 100. If you differentiate 5x1, 5.
Okay, where back to the first one?
And now it's from here. 100 minus 5 gives us 95.
Okay.
Then I still have minus x1 and then minus 0.5x2. And now you equate it to 0 to get this equation. Do you get that? Okay. Okay now. So the two reaction functions, the two equations we got from profit function 1 and profit function 2 gave us this reaction function. And that's the first thing they asked us to find. They said we should find the reaction function of the duopolies. Now the next thing for us to be able to get the profits of the two duopolies, so what do we need to do? We will now substitute equation 2 in equation 1. Look at the way we are doing that. So we can say substitute equation 2 in 1. So you know our equation 1 is x1 equals 95 minus 0.5 x2. Is that not?
Yes.
So I will now say x1 equals 95 minus 0.5. Instead of me to write x2, I know my x2. What's my x2? 50 minus 0.25 x1. Is there anybody lost here? My equation 1 is this.
Yeah.
So where I add x2, instead of me to write x2 there, x2 is 50 minus 0.25 x1. So where I see s2, I put 50 minus 0.25 x1.
Is it the same thing as 95 here, 0.5 x1 here, or 0.5 x2?
I don't
Like
understand.
normal simultaneous equation.
As in if you want to use normal simultaneous, yes, the same thing. So now that you have this, can I continue? Is everybody clear with this?
Yes.
Edit. Toby, Cournot today.
Is it 0.25 x1 by x2?
No, you know this is our x2.
That's solving for x1.
See, this is x1, I wrote it out. And now put x1, 95 minus 0.5. Instead of now writing x2, instead of writing this x2, I already know x2 from here. x2 is 50 minus 0.25 x1. I just brought this one because that's x2. I just brought it where I see x2, I wrote it. You see that? Can I continue? So expand now. x1 will now be equal to 95 minus 0.5 times 50. 0.5 times 50. Is it 25?
Yes.
Yep.
25. Then minus 0.5 times minus 0.25.
Minus 0.125.
It should be plus. Minus 0.5 times minus 0.25.
Okay, plus 0.1.
0.125.
0.125 x1. Who is lost here? 95 minus 0.5 times 50 gave us 25. The 0.5 times minus 0.25 gave us this. So our x1 will now be equal to 95 minus 25. Is that 70?
70.
Plus what? 0.125 x1. Abi? So let's collect like terms. So I'll say x1 minus 0.125 x1 equals 70. You know this is plus 0.125 x1. By the time it crosses to the other side, it will turn to minus. Abi?
Yes.
You know, this x1, there is a visible one beside it. So 1 minus 0.125.
0.875.
0.875 x1 equals what? 70. Who is lost here? So get your x1 by dividing both sides by 0.875.
0.10125.
70 divided by this.
What are you saying?
80, sorry.
Talking in the thing that
80. So our x1 is what? 80.
No.
So then we can get our x2 automatic, right?
Yes.
From this equation, you know our x2 is what? 50 minus 0.25 x1. Abi? So our x2 will now be 50 minus 0.25 into bracket 80. Abi?
Yes.
Where we see x1, we put 80. Oh yeah, give me figure. 4.25 times 80. 20, Abi. So x2 will now be what? 30. So therefore our x1 is 80, x2 is what? 30. So let's go back to the profit function of propolis 1. Who will give me that equation? I'll clean it. Give me that equation where delta 1 is equal to s.
Delta 1 is equal to what?
Where pi 1 rather is in your notes. No, as in the equation. 100
x1 plus x2
minus 0.5 x1.
yeah, no, minus 5x1
0.5x2.
Bracket x1, no. Move the s2. Move that and
Yes.
move the s, no matter how.
But you still expand it now, it's still the same thing.
now
You
what
are
to
expanding it. So, if you write it like
Yeah,
that,
tell me.
you're still going to expand
I
it.
know.
X1 squared.
that happen
0.5x.
it's probably to your findings in one
I hope you guys have this in your notes. Check.
yeah.
Check if you have this in your notes.
Yes.
Automatica extra.
Okay. What about the second one? They are telling this the pi 2. 100 x2
Minus 0.5x1 x2. Minus 0.5x2 squared. Minus 0.5x2 squared.
Like this, are you?
Yes.
So you guys, you have this in your notes now. Linda,
It's there because it's gone.
they should go on. You do things like the one that is on of course.
yeah, let me show you.
It's there now, or you do write it down.
I know it's true.
Now,
That's it.
taking it down for propolis 1. So, we'll do for propolis 1 and
Globally
propolis
1. Is it 5x1 or 0.5x1?
Which one? This one?
Globally 1.
Yes, and 0.5.
How come you now roll 5 by roll 5?
Okay, you guys roll 5.
Now,
Is it 5? Check of what?
0.5.
Check in your notes.
0.5 is correct.
Let's look at
it's me that made it.
Let's look at the square.
Check your notes.
So we need to change your class. Now.
It's no matter of class. It's cleaner than single book.
Legally, this one may have said you're still not getting. See, yeah, 5x1.
5x1.
That's what I'm saying. 0.5x1.
Okay, so this space is 5x1, Abi?
It's 5x1. I don't know where this one is.
Check the second one.
That one is
Check the second one. Is it 0.5?
Yes, that one is 5x1.
Check the second
Who
one.
needs a glass? People ask. It's one that caused the first wrong with all of you. Can you imagine?
Oh yeah, check the second one. Is 0.5 or 5?
It's correct.
The second one that I marked.
It's 0.5.
So now you guys are solving this so that I can get you involved. What are you solving?
No.
Anywhere you see x1, what will you put?
Then let's go for
It's,
it.
anywhere you see 2, what do you put?
And what do I know that also do?
Eh?
It is 4.5x1. Propolis 1.
No, it's 5x1.
5x1.
See, it's 5x1.
Yeah, something myopia. Now go to the hospital.
This one here.
I will begin to understand.
It's the equation you use to differentiate it now.
That equation that we use to differentiate is what we pick out.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like
Okay, you want us to do it together?
yes.
I will only put the figures, so we solve everything. Stop writing, everybody. Look at, to get profit for duopolist 1, it will now be 100 into what's x1?
80.
Minus 0.5 into what's x1? 80 squared. Minus 0.5 into what's x1?
80.
What's x2?
30.
Minus 5, what's x1?
80.
So use calculator to do this. For the second guy, second duopolist, it will be 100 into what?
30.
Minus what?
0.5 into 80.